Good morning, everybody. My name is Brian, and it's great to be with you today. So we're wrapping up this series, correct? Yes, okay, we're wrapping up the series on proclaiming the gospel, about on evangelism, on letting people in on what we have. And it's such a privilege and a joy to be a part of a vibrant community like we have here that's growing, that is giving. And if you're here, I assume that you're getting something out of being here, about something about your faith has brought you here on a Sunday morning rather than sleeping in, rather than fishing, rather than sport. There's so many other things that our society offers that people choose to do on a Sunday, and you're here. So I assume that there's a reason for that, and that you want to be here, and that for that reason you also would like other people to be here. It's been really exciting for me over the last several months. I've been watching kind of a slow growth in the number of chairs that we're putting out. We're getting to the place where people are actually going to have to sit in the front row. And how uncomfortable for them. So you'll actually have to show up early. Otherwise, you'll have to walk all the way to the front row and sit in the front row while everybody's singing. Wouldn't that be a great day to get to that? So we've been talking about proclaiming the gospel, about evangelism, and Jeff, over the last 2 weeks, has been encouraging us to think about an individual or a couple of people that you want to see Jesus in their lives. And that, I would call that a very active evangelism, where you're in partnership with God, you're praying about people in your life, and you see someone and you think, I want them to be sitting next to me in church. Whatever that relationship is, your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, fellow students, family, we want people to be a part of this. And that's a very active thing. But today we're going to talk about a slightly different posture. And we're talking about being a chaplain in your networks, being a go-to chaplain among those people, among your neighbors and your families and your friends. And so as a chaplain, it's less active, it's more responsive, is what chaplains are. Actually, when we first came to Australia, I joined our mission prayer time. We meet once a month to pray for all of the mission partners that the church has. And the first time we were there, I was really surprised that half of the people we prayed for were school chaplains. I'd never heard of that before. That's just not something we have in the States. And so to have chaplains in public schools receiving some funds from the schools and other funds from churches is a bit mind-blowing for me. But what a cool and amazing opportunity that is. And then later we also learned about street chaplains. And eventually I made the mistake of raising my hand when Stuart came and asked if you were free on Saturday nights from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. It's like, well, I'm technically not doing anything. And so I started going out on the street chaplains. And in street chaplains, I've really enjoyed that. But it takes this posture where instead of, targeting someone, saying, all right, I'm going to talk to you right now, it's more being available. It's more going out and seeing what we bump into and responding accordingly. And in our networks, we can do that too. Because while it's really important for us to identify people that we want to evangelize, there's also many other people in our networks that we're not thinking about, that God is moving in, that God is prompting, and you're impacting whether you know it or not. And so we need to be available for that. So I'm calling this responsive evangelism. And the 2 points here are a little weird, but this is what actually in the Can Street Chaplains, there's 2 aspects of the evening. One is called assertive outreach, and then the other is called rest and recovery. And so it's a long stretch there at night from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. And so we take it in turns, where there's usually 4 of us out there. 2 will be on assertive outreach, and then 2 will be on rest and recovery. I saw Josh walk in earlier, but I'm missing him. He's usually over here. Where are you? I can't see anything. Josh, there you are in the back. You weren't going to raise your hand. I knew. I was going to find you. So Josh is our street chaplain professional, semi-professional. He's on staff with street chaplains, and he's out every night. You were out last night, yes? Oh, the one time you didn't go out. You weren't? Yeah, okay. Well, that's why you're here. So Josh is out all the time. I make it out just once a month if we're lucky. But we have lots of volunteers, and it's really amazing what they do. So let's talk about assertive outreach. Go to the next. So assertive outreach is where we just walk the streets. And we're just walking around trying to find people who could use some help. Sometimes it's just someone who is just lost. They really don't know where they're going, trying to get back to their backpacker place or whatever, had a few too many to drink, can't read their phone, whatever it is, and we just give them some directions. One time I was out, and I was talking to the fellow street chaplain, because you're just around talking, and I stopped, and I thought, did I see what I thought I saw? So we took a few steps back, and in the storm drain, on the side of the street, there was a guy halfway down the drain. Like his legs were completely in the drain and he was just kind of asleep, just laying there. And we sat there and we looked at him for a while, not sure, like, how do we get him out of this situation without hurting him? You know, we can't drag him out, but if we wake him up, he might jerk, and we didn't want him to fall in or anything like that. So eventually, we woke him up a little bit. We kind of, helped him get out of it. He sat up on a bench, and he said he didn't need any help. And we said, are you really sure about that? He said, no, I'm fine. It's like, I don't think, okay. So but that's one of the rules of being a chaplain, is you offer help, but they can say no. So what we usually do in those types of situations, because we get a lot of, especially ladies, who are embarrassed when they're down and they can't walk, but they don't really want to be a trouble. We just kind of circle the block and keep an eye on them, make sure that they eventually get into a cab or whatever. So how does this apply to us? We can be. It's doing it again. Close it down. There we go. All right. In your life, you can be aware of the people around you, the networks, the relationships that you're in. And when someone gets into trouble, ask them about it. Offer assistance, offer help. In the Bible, let's go to the next slide. This is in the big revealing that Jesus has of the separating of the sheep and the goats. And just one little passage here that really defines for Jesus is at the very end of his ministry. What's the difference between the sheep and the goats? The sheep are the people that are following him well. The goats are not. And he says to the righteous ones, to the sheep, they say to Jesus, "Lord, when did we ever see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? Or a stranger and show you hospitality, or naked and give you clothing? When did we ever see you sick or in prison and visit you?" And the king will say, "I tell you the truth, when you did it for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you were doing it for me." Jesus counts the service that we give others as service for himself. It is one of the defining ways that Jesus looks at us and says, "Are you following me or not?" It's not, did you show up to church? It's not, did you have the correct theology? It's, how did you treat people when they were hurting? When they needed help, how did you treat them? My wife has a friend back in the States, and she sent her a voice message, one of the wildest messages Hannah's ever received. The lady, she says, I heard a bunch of cars just kind of come in really fast outside our neighbor across the street. So I jumped up and I ran, and there was 5 cars just kind of came flying in. A bunch of FBI agents jump out of the car. One of them has one of the thingies. Thank you, Ram. Technically called a thingy. They knock down the door. They run in. They grab her neighbor, this woman, put her in cuffs, back in the car, gone. 2 minutes. She texts, what do I do? Well, I don't know. It turns out that this lady committed murder, was able to get away and start a new life. She married a guy, had kids, but the authorities caught up to her. And so she was asking Hannah, well, what do I do? How do I respond to something as wild as that? They had a relationship with that family. Obviously, they didn't know anything about her past. And she said, there's other people on the streets who are like, whoa, that's just too messy. We're not going to mess with that. And Hannah felt this verse. She felt like God gave her that verse, and she said, I don't know. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I don't know the situation, the story. But Jesus says, whoever visits people in prison are visiting him. And she took that and said, well, maybe we should. And over the last year or so, they've maintained relationship with that family. And it's a wild story. There's lots of mess to it. But the husband and the kids are now going to church with them every Sunday, getting support for this weird thing that is their life now. And the wife in prison, who still is facing lots of consequences for her actions, she's now a believer and is leading Bible studies in prison. There's a whole lot more going on there that's really messy, but that's what can happen when we choose to step into messy situations rather than say, oof, that's too much drama for me. Because that's when we're following Jesus' example. Jesus never turned anyone away because of the drama. He went to those people and he helped them. And so as a chaplain in your network, are you stepping into people's messy situations? Because often that's when everyone else is stepping away. And that's how we can love people. And this is about genuine loving of people. This isn't about, opportunity for evangelism. This is about just caring for people and loving people. And if that results in them having a relationship with Jesus, then great. That, we believe, is the most loving thing we can do for someone. But if your posture is one of, opportunity, then it's not going to be received well. But if you genuinely care for the people around you, then God can use that to reveal himself. Let's go to another verse. This is in James. Pure and genuine religion in the sight of God the Father means caring for orphans and widows in their distress and refusing to let the world corrupt you. There's an intentionality in our living. If we really believe the Bible, if we really believe the things that are in here, this is just one of a dozen verses that specifically reference widows and orphans. Widows and orphans were, in that time, in that society, the most vulnerable people. They're still vulnerable in our society, but there's other vulnerable people that we can be reaching out to as well. Who's vulnerable in your networks? Who's vulnerable on your street? Who's vulnerable in your families, among your friends, at school? Who are the ones that have no other allies, have no one walking alongside them? Those are the ones that Jesus says we're meant to be living life with and living life among. It is a problem when the church becomes a country club. When the church becomes a place where everybody's at a, mid-economic standard. Nobody too rich, but we don't want anybody too poor. Lots of people that look like us, people who have it all together, people who don't have any needs, especially financially. When the church becomes that, that's when we become dead and lifeless. The church should have people among us who are hurting and who need help. Because they should be drawn to this community. Would you feel comfortable bringing someone hurting to this church? If you don't, then there's a problem. But if you feel like there's answers here and there's people here who can help, then that's what the church should be. And so even though assertive outreach is kind of a phrase that's a bit, aggressive, that's the way that we should be operating with people. Open to opportunities to see people who are hurting, to come alongside them, and if that results in them joining this community and coming to know Jesus, then great. It means that we step into messy situations. This is messy stuff. This is people who have lost someone, people who are grieving, people who are in financial distress, kids at school whose parents are getting a divorce, newly arrived immigrants who just don't know what's going on, don't have opportunities. There's all kinds of situations that people can find themselves in. And are we brave enough to step into them? Or is it just too much drama? So that's the assertive outreach. Go to the next slide. The other thing that we do, that's not it. Oh yeah, this is important too. In messy situations, I give you permission not to have all the answers. If that's what you're afraid of, then relieve yourself of that burden. What I'm asking you to do, what I believe the Bible is asking you to do, is come alongside people. And that's something that we all can do. So if there's people asking difficult questions that you don't feel like you have an answer for, then that's when you say, I don't know. And you go back to the other sermon, make their friends your friends. You struggle with it too, yeah. The friends thing, bring them here. There's people in our community who can identify with those struggles, who have been through something similar and can just walk alongside them with them. There's people here who know theology really well. There's people here who have answers. Don't be afraid of not having answers. Don't be afraid of saying, I don't know. That's a genuine answer that people can respect. Okay, next slide, sorry. That was important. Okay, so we've got the assertive outreach. Then the other half of the night, which I prefer to be the first half of the night. Otherwise, I fall asleep. I like to walk around the second half of the night. The first half of the night, I prefer to be at what we call rest and recovery. And if you've ever been out in Cairns on Friday or Saturday night that late, shame on you. Why are you out that late? No, I'm just kidding. You'll see right on Shield Street a big purple van, and a big purple tent. Actually, two big purple tents now. And that is there and has been there every Friday and Saturday night for years. The amount of times that people have come and said, oh, you guys are still here, great. I was up from Sydney 5 years ago and you guys were a lifesaver. Not 5 years ago, that would have been right in COVID, but you get the point. There is a consistency to that little van being there, that table, and the lollies. The first time that we gave money for lollies, I was not a part of Street Chaplains, and I was like, wait, what? $1,000 worth of lollies. What are we doing? Doesn't sound like something Jesus would do. But I promise you, drunk people love lollies. And people just love it. It starts conversation. So anyway, at Rest and Recovery, we've got water and we've got lollies. That's it. And people come and they just chug water and they eat some lollies and then they keep going. And some of them, they stop and they talk. Some of them want to have really deep theological conversations, which is always a blast. I never put much stock into trying to convince anyone of anything when they're half drunk, but it is lots of fun to have conversations like that. But it's also a place that people know we're going to be there, and they also know that they're going to be safe. There's been many times that especially women will come up and say, can I just sit down? Can I just sit down back here? They're people who know that they're vulnerable. They know that I could get into a bad situation, but where can I go and be safe? Well, you can do it in our tent. That's where you can just rest. If you want to get your phone charged, we'll charge up your phone. We'll help you call an Uber. We'll walk you to the taxis, whatever you need to be safe. It's also a place that our homeless people come. They get jumpers on cold nights. They get jumpers every night. Sometimes it's so hot, I don't know why they want jumpers, but they want jumpers. We've changed bandages for them at times. It's a place that's known to be safe and secure and welcoming and inviting, which is saying something for 3 a.m., but we do it. And so my question is, are you that in your networks? Are you safe? Are you welcoming? Are you inviting? Let's look at some verses. Proverbs 3. Had to find an Old Testament for us here. Do not withhold good from those who deserve it when it's in your power to help them. If you can help your neighbor now, don't say, come back tomorrow, and then I'll help. That's powerful. When you have the ability to help, do you help? Colossians 4, 5, and 6. Live wisely among those who are not believers and make the most of every opportunity. Let your conversation be gracious and attractive so that you will have the right response for everyone. So there we're shifting into our tone, into how we present ourselves. We're meant to be gracious in the way we respond to people. We're meant to be loving. We're meant to respond in such a way that they want to take a step towards us rather than a horrified step away from us. Matthew, Jesus says, "You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father." This is almost a description of passive evangelism, where our demeanor is such that people are attracted to us. Where people come and talk to us and ask us about things, and we didn't even know they were thinking. We didn't even know that they were open to some of the things that we have to offer. Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever been at work and a coworker comes and just starts asking you about church? And you're like, whoa, where'd that come from? Are you living your life such that that could happen? Our last verse from Philippians. Do everything without complaining and arguing, so that no one can criticize you. Live clean, innocent lives as children of God, shining like bright lights in the world full of a crooked and perverse people. All these passages are indicating that we're meant to be in living a way that's intentional and attractive. It's meant to draw people to you. That's why the street chaplains, we wear purple shirts. Nobody else is wearing shirt color like that. I promise you. That is just us. But people see it. And they come and they talk to us. We impact more people than we realize. There's more people that are watching us than we realize. So some questions to consider. So think about your friends, your family, your neighbors, your coworkers, people you go to school with. Would they come to you if they had a question about Jesus? Would you be the one that they said, I think I want to know more about this guy? Who do I know that could help me out? I'll go to. Is that you? This isn't about Bible knowledge. This isn't about being the Bible nerd. This isn't about being the extrovert, being in everybody's face. This is just about living your life genuinely out of your unique giftings and out of your experience, and just sharing that with people so that they're aware. Do the people around you know that you're a Christian? That's the first question, really. Is it a meaningful part of your life that it comes up? Not to rub it in people's faces, but just it comes up. That's maybe the first problem. Next question, related. If those people were struggling, something messy coming up in their life, and they need to turn to someone for help, would they turn to you? If a neighbor's in a jam and needs help, would they come to you? Are you the friendly one on the street who's helping out? Or are you the cranky one on the street? These should be, hopefully, some confronting questions. And so as we are thinking about individuals that we're trying to evangelize, we also should be thinking about our posture. Are we being attractive? But there's some good news. Next slide. Since 2016, the 55-plus age group is the fastest growing demographic in Australia coming to faith. This is actually bucking trends worldwide. This is unique to Australia. Worldwide, it's the youngest that are coming to faith in droves. But something about Australia, it is 55 plus, followed by the youngest. So those people, whether they're your friends, your parents, your grandparents, your neighbors, those people who years ago you thought, they'll never come to church. Those are the ones that are curious right now. There's a lot of reasons for that. People are finding themselves in economic hardship. Mortgages are through the roof. They're not sure what to do. There's all kinds of uncertainty in this world. These are the moments that people start to look for answers and for meaning. And they're not finding it in their job. They're not finding it in sport or whatever else society has. And so they're open to those spiritual questions and conversations. I find that really interesting, to see a demographic shift from years before where almost none of them were interested to a significant portion of people could say yes if you just invited them to church. Another one, younger Christians are far more likely to attend church. It's basically the younger you are as a Christian, if you say yes to being a Christian, you're far more likely to actually being a Christian and going to church and being engaged. Online as well. Online and in-person counts on that survey. That is really encouraging to me. To see young people, to see committed people actually coming to church. One guy that I listen to, he says that cultural Christianity is no longer a thing in Australia. You either are a Christian or you aren't. Which sounds a little scary if you grew up in an Australia that everybody was Christian. But at that time when everybody was a Christian, was everybody really a Christian? Whereas now, if you talk to somebody, if you bump into somebody and you get around that conversation, they say, oh, yeah, I'm a Christian. You could pretty well guarantee that that means that they're a committed follower. There's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of power in the church that's full of people who are actually committed to this thing, rather than a whole society that's kind of half committed. We can be a witness in a society that's not Christian as a church who's all committed together. And with the young people driving that forward, there's great future and hope in the church. This is not a thing that's dying and slowly going to go away. We're not moving into a future where there are no Australian Christians. We're moving into a future where Australian Christians are committed. And that's a really hopeful thing. The last one is that movement away from Christianity is primarily driven by dissatisfaction of how it's practiced. This is usually true at all times in all places. But the good news with this is that people aren't mad about Jesus. They don't think, ooh, that guy, don't like him. The issue is us. And the good news is that we can change that. We can change our community to be more like Jesus, to be more committed, to be more loving and gracious to each other and to those around us. Because the message is still good. The guy at the middle is still good. So if we're willing to change our posture and be the people in our communities, in our networks, that people find loving, that people find gracious, that people find warm and inviting, and you can do those things in many different ways with many different skill sets as an introvert or as an extrovert. You don't have to be a cookie cutter Christian. You can be yourself as God has made you to be and still be a gracious, loving person. We'll finish with the hindrances to our witness. Are you available? If someone comes to you with a problem, are you able to stop and listen? That's a major problem in our society right now. Generally, just availability is a problem. We are all way too busy to do anything. If you're too busy, people won't come to you with their problems. You won't even get the chance because they'll see, oh, wow, he's always out doing something. He's always all over the place. But if you're warm and inviting in just general conversation, when you are leaving your house in the morning and you see your neighbor and you smile and you wave and you engage just enough so that they know, oh, he actually cares. He wants to hear the answers to the questions he's asking. Then later, when your neighbor's mom dies, he'll be willing to share that. But in the same situation, if you're in your car every single time, beep, beep, bye, gone. Don't even have the opportunity. Are you available? Are you warm to those around you? This isn't a personality question. Some people are just naturally more warming and everything. Some people are a little bit more cold. That's different personality things are fine. But are you someone that people want to be around? If you are a cranky, angry person, that is something that you should work on with Christ. Anger is a sin when it's thrown out on everybody. This isn't about, being smiley all the time with everyone, but it is about being warm and open. A lack of openness about following Christ. Does the people around you even know you're a Christian? In Australia, I know it is getting to be a little bit more possible that you could have some social consequences. This is new. We're navigating this, but we're starting to get to a place where there's social consequences to being a Christian. Maybe it's an eye roll. Maybe it's somebody laughing at you. Maybe it's somebody immediately starting to tell you about how bad Christians are, how we're all hypocrites. These things happen. Maybe they've happened to you. But have you allowed that to then just make it so that you don't tell anybody? And then again, this isn't about shoving in people's faces all the time. But when your neighbor sees you pull out on a Sunday morning, do they know you're going to church? Have you ever told them? These are the issues. And finally, rejection in the past. When you try, you build up your courage, and you try. and you get rejected, it's really hard to do it again. Let me encourage you to keep trying. Maybe not with that individual, but with someone else. You don't know what's happening when someone rejects you, for starters. That could be just them lashing out, the first step of them walking towards faith. So a negative reaction isn't necessarily a negative reaction. But it also shouldn't stop us from trying again. We've got to keep trying. If you believe that you've come here for a greater purpose, that there's something in Jesus and there's something in this community that gives you purpose, that gives you something better, an answer that this world is looking for, then why aren't we doing more to tell people about it? If it's embarrassment, just think of how flat that excuse will fall at the feet of Jesus. I was too embarrassed to tell anyone that I went to church. And I don't stand up here in judgment of you. I am a professional minister. I've done hardly any work in my life except for ministry. And I do not like this stuff. It is hard. It takes a lot of courage. I love talking to people who agree with me. That's why I'm up here on Sundays. I love that. That's super fun. I'll talk to you all day long about this stuff. But the second that it could be somebody who rejects me, that's when things get really difficult for me. And I'm paid to do this. We can do this better together. Talk to people. Make their friends your friends their friends, however you meant to say it. And let's do this in community where our church is a city on the hill. Collectively, we're doing it together, especially once we get the roof painted. Then everybody will see us. That's what we're called to. So we're going to finish. We're going to sing the song, I Speak Jesus. We sang it last week. As a part of that, remembering what we're doing. And today we're talking about speaking Jesus, not so much with our words, but with our actions. But it's all speaking Jesus. This is what we're called to do. So as I pray, I want you to reflect on those questions, those hard questions. And this week, reflect on that. Am I the person that someone would come to if they were struggling? Am I the person that someone would come to if they had a question about Jesus? And if the answer to those is no, then start to think about, well, what can I do to slowly start to change that in my networks? How can I love people more? How can I be more warm and open and inviting? Let's pray. Father, we're so grateful for what you've done for us. We acknowledge that we still don't fully understand it at times, the amazing depth of your grace and your love that you have bestowed on us, that you pour out on us day by day, that you give to us, that you forgive every moment of every day. And Lord, we want others to be a part of that. We want others to experience that acceptance and warmth and love. And sometimes it's hard for us. Sometimes we're embarrassed. Sometimes we don't have the words. Sometimes we don't have the answers, Lord. And I just pray that you would help us to get better at this day by day in little ways, that we would be the people that others come to know you a little bit better, that's how we would be known among our friends, our families, in our neighborhoods, in our work, at school, that these are the things that would define us, the love and warmth and openness and acceptance that you give us, that we would be able to give that to others. Lord, it's only by your Spirit that we can do those things. And so we ask that you would just pour out your Spirit on us individually and as a community, that we could just grow your kingdom. That's what it's all about, growing your kingdom, expanding your glory here in Cairns, Lord. Just pray that you would walk with us in that, and we pray in Jesus' name.